Welcome back. Okay, so you've been documenting all of your interactions with employees and sometimes with management, and any of the things that you feel that are human rights violations to you, failure to accommodate, all of those things. And you've got this documentation and you've decided that you want to make a complaint, and you are unionized or non-unionized, right? There are two different processes, and here are some of the things that you need to consider. There are 3 acts that combined make up the framework of building this accessible, just, inclusive basis of employment that we're trying to create, right? And they are the Human Rights Act, the Labor Relations Act, and the Accessibility Act. The Human Rights Act ensures that everyone is treated equally and that they do not have to face discrimination based on things like gender, disability, sexual orientation, religion. The way that these acts are defined across Canada, everything is pretty much the same. There's just differences in where they are at this time. Some are a little bit behind, some are a little bit ahead, but basically they cover the same sorts of protections across the country. The Labor Relations Act is covering the relationship between employers, employees, and unions, and that they are trying to ensure a fair and equitable treatment during labor disputes. Okay. The Accessibility Act is exactly what it sounds like. Its goal is to remove barriers for people with disabilities, to ensure that they have equal access to opportunities and resources. Right? So now, to go back to the Human Rights Act, when you take all 3 of these acts and put them together, it is supposed to be the framework that will help to build and maintain a fair, just, and inclusive society. Okay. Now, they all address different, however, they are also overlapping aspects which try to work towards a common goal of protecting and promoting the rights of the individual. But it's my opinion that the Human Rights Act cannot be one of 3 basically supporting players in that goal. The Human Rights Act covers discrimination on 17 different grounds, which includes disabilities, and in 5 social areas, including employment and unions. So the Act, in my opinion, again, should take the lead in human rights complaints, with jurisdiction being given to the Provincial Human Rights Commission, regardless of the labor status. So regardless if it's a union shop or not. Okay. Currently, if you are a unionized employee in Canada, you are required to take your human rights complaints to your union and go through the union grievance process in order to resolve them. Ontario is the only exception with language that gives unionized employees a choice to use either the grievance process or to make a complaint directly to the Ontario Human Rights Commission. Now, as with most laws and legislations, things ebb and flow with the times. And when I made my complaint, it was you could do either, all right? And then COVID hit, and then there was a delay there, and then there was 2021 brought about a case in Manitoba where it was questioned whether or not the union or the Human Rights Commission had jurisdiction over the human rights complaint. And And this case went all the way to the Canadian Supreme Court. The court studied what had happened and came up with its two-step process and decided that the union or labor arbitrator had exclusive jurisdiction in the case because of the language in the collective agreement. And there was no contradicting language in the Human Rights Act for Manitoba Province. And so that finished that. And they believed at the time that this would influence how things went in Ontario because Ontario and Manitoba have very, very similar Labor Relations Acts, Human Rights Acts, and the Accessibility Act. They're very, very similar in their language. Okay, so then we come along, and 2022 happens, and there is a case in Ontario. And again, it's a unionized workplace, and the tribunal puts this case through the test that was set up by the Supreme Court of Canada, Manitoba case. What they discovered, unlike the Manitoba case, is that there is language to support the fact that the tribunal maintains concurrent jurisdiction with the labor arbitrators to hear cases arising from collective agreements. Now, it doesn't mean that in Ontario, automatically, the tribunal is going to say, yep, bring us your complaints, here we go, we're going to do this. It doesn't mean that. It means that they have the right to take a look at it and decide, yes, we'll defer on this for the moment, and if you're going to go through the grieving process, we'll let you go through the grieving process, we'll see what happens. Or we're going to dismiss it because we don't think that there's anything happening there. When you submit your claim to the tribunal, they have the exact same thing. They either accept it or they can dismiss it because they don't think you have grounds. And that is the same thing that can happen to you with a union. The union can look at what you're asking in your complaint and say, we have no grounds. We have no grounds to ask for this. Your expectations for the outcome of your human rights claim need to be your guide as to which way you want to go. In my case, it was about how all of the issues that were filed in the complaint, how they affected me, what happened, how I felt about them. That was the most important to me. And that is why I chose to go with filing directly with the tribunal. I did not choose to go through my union. And filing with your union, however, can get you all the way through a process. If what is important to you is doing like one-stop shopping, so you were terminated and you want to get your job back because you were, in your opinion, terminated unfairly, and you want to get back pay for that time and you want to have an accommodation, then filing with your union could be the way to go for you. In either case, it would be my most heartfelt bit of advice to you is to please go and talk to a lawyer, a specialist in employment or labor relations lawyer, and lay out what you're doing, what has happened, and which one of the two you're leaning towards, and be able to talk it through. It will be some of the best spent money you can have, because you need to understand what the process is, what you can expect, how it's going to work, so that when you walk in and you're starting to fill out the myriad of papers that have to go, and you're forced into meetings that you may or may not want to be into, and the potential outcomes and things that you have to agree to, and signing of papers and all the rest at the end of it all, you need to be sure in your own mind that you understand what it is you're asking for and what the process is. You need to speak to somebody that can give you their expertise on that. And that is not your union rep, ever. That is not a rap against union reps. I was a steward, so I think that unions are a great thing. But unions look this way, and you need somebody that's going to do this for you. There is no part of this process that is about solidarity or inspiring other employees. This is about what you want for you. Full stop.